Tesla's Cinderella ride is over and man is starting to crack. Tesla shares tumble following deliveries report. The numbers represent a record for Elon Musk-led automaker and growth of 40% in deliveries year over year, but they fell shy of analysts' expectations. Tesla delivers record 405,278 cars in quarter, but misses target. Tesla sales miss puts spotlight on margins. Investors will get more clarity later this month on whether the EV maker is putting growth ahead of profit. Essentially, a lot of bad things are happening, a lot of bad news is going on, and I know there's a lot of people confused out there. And one of the problems is, and I'm just keeping it real with you guys, there's a lot of YouTube pumpers out there that basically tell you that Tesla is going to go to the moon, that Elon Musk is the greatest superhero of all time, and now you should be really thrilled that he's buying Twitter. And the reality is, this is just reality. If people put money in Tesla and the CEO is just selling, a bunch of Tesla stock, then to fund his escapades with Twitter, I'd be pretty upset. And the reason is I wanted to, if I was to invest in Tesla, I want to invest in a car company. I want to invest in the future of, say, solar power, all of these kind of things. And I believe in Elon. And then you're diverting all that money over to Twitter. And not only is it a diversion of money, it's also a diversion of attention. And I think that's a real problem. Now, moreover, as you guys read through the headlines, they're having a demand problem, right? And I've warned you guys about this for a long time. There's multiple things going on. So one, there's a slowing of the global economy, right? So people just don't have so much money and business productivity is down. Also, two, you have a rise in the cost of how much it makes to make these cars, right? Be it labor, be it natural materials like your lithium, these kind of things. Also, too, you have shutdowns in China, right? So you have COVID, so you're having problems with making said cars. As well as you have a public image problem as well. People don't necessarily want to be associated with a Tesla. So in the past, for example, people who wanted to buy something like a Tesla would say, you know what, I'm all about alternative energy. I reject oil companies, these kind of things. And it's really actually quite interesting because when I was a kid, this was considered like a, I guess you could say lefty or liberal kind of thing to not be for oil companies and want to do something like alternative energy, right? Care about the planet. And it's really interesting because there was a sort of a shift in Tesla because, you have people who say lean that way that would want to buy a Tesla. And then now you have like a CEO is starting to go more to the right? I'm sure you guys know this. I'm not just making stuff up. And so that kind of isolates the customers that wanted to buy Tesla for those kind of reasons. And they're like, well, I'm not so sure I want to be associated with said Tesla. And that's not starting to be right wing. And one of the things that I was talking about Tesla here in any company is, my opinion is that you should try to be as neutral as you can because you want to sell cars to both left side and the right side. I don't think that's crazy. You want to sell cars to everybody, and it's been unfortunate the CEO has been just so politically aggressive. And I get it. People out there who support him say, oh well, it's all about free speech. But I mean, I hope you guys understand this. As a company, I want to sell cars to both left side and right side, middle side, upside, downside. I want to sell cars to everybody, and so usually you don't want to be aggressively getting into politics. So all these things are weighing down on Tesla's stock. The other thing is too is I understand when people sort of look at it and they're like, well, Chris, it's deliveries are going up 40%. Isn't that good? And yes, it's great, right? But there's a couple things to keep in mind. You're just talking about deliveries. You're not talking about their earnings, right? So for example, let's give you a simple example. If you're spending a whole bunch of money on advertising and spending a whole bunch of money on discounts and maybe selling cars at a loss, just for example, yes, your deliveries could go up through the moon. And this happens with a lot of companies is they'll try to show the numbers that make them look good. So in this case, deliveries. But you have to remember too, when you're talking about business, you want to talk about the bottom line. Now, one of the things that's going on is, and this I'm sure you guys understand this, is with the stock market or stocks in general or companies in general, it is hard to predict the future. And essentially what was going on is a lot of people were predicting a really, really rosy scenario for Tesla. And it has been essentially the stock has been priced based on super rosy scenarios, right? Really great bull cases. However, unfortunately, in the slowdown in the global economy sort of affects everything, and people are sort of tapering down their expectations, along with all those said problems before with Elon Musk, Twitter, and all this stuff like that. If you take a look at this chart, right? So this is a great chart. This is just deliveries. We're not talking about earnings or anything like that. We're just talking about deliveries. They have certainly increased their production, right? It's very clear to see. So back in 18, you're looking at deliveries in the 50,000s, right? And then suddenly you're going to 19, 100,000, you're growing really fast. And then in 20, you're growing again at 200,000. And now we're up to 2022, you're at 400,000. And here's the thing, the growth rate is slowing. That's just what it is, right? It's hard to go. You can do the numbers for yourself, right? And I'll make it really simple numbers. So let's say I make 1 car a year. I'm trying to keep it simple as possible. And the next year I make 2 cars. Wow, my God, I'm like doubling, right? And the next year I make 4 cars and I'm like doubling again. And then I make, 8 cars and I'm doubling. And I make 16 cars, I'm doubling. But when you get to these massive numbers, big numbers, like for example, we're talking about now we're delivering cars in the 400,000, to like keep that same growth rate, to go like from a 400,000 then to a 800,000, right? And then from 800,000 to like 1.6 million. I hope I'm doing my math right, right? And then, to go from 1.6 million to 3.2 million, right? The keep the same growth rate is really, really tough. And so essentially sort of why the opening headline I share with you guys is that Tesla's Cinderella ride may be over. It's just because the growth is slowing, right? So it's not like an awful company by any stretch. It's just that the stock has been overvalued for a long time because it was priced so high, because people expected crazy high growth rates and rosy scenario put on top of lots of people pumping it, be it on Wall Street, be it people on YouTube and these kind of things. And then, at the top of essentially the bubble, you have the CEO of a major company, Tesla, pumping up Dogecoin, which is literally a cryptocurrency with a dog on it. And I'm not making it up. So when we look back in history, look at these videos, you'd be like, what? There was a company and there was a CEO like talking about a coin with a dog, and like I can't even touch the coin. It was like digital, and like we're gonna be laughing at this stuff in the future. The other thing too, when some of the headlines are talking about demand problems, this is a really important chart to look at as well. So the basic gist of this chart is that they're producing more cars than they are delivering, and so they may be having a demand problem. I was looking at some other things as well, as I mentioned to you several times. Other companies are coming in to sort of try to challenge Tesla in market share, and it's something I've always asked you guys several times about, is like, do you think Tesla is the only car maker on the market? And it's funny, when you ask the Tesla fanboys and fangirls, they'll say,
oh, Chris, you're so dumb. We've heard about competition all the time, and it's never come, and you're just stupid. Competition's never coming because it didn't come in the past.
Things change, guys. So maybe 3 years ago, maybe Toyota, maybe Honda, maybe Hyundai, maybe BMW, maybe Mercedes, or any number of vehicles, manufacturers, maybe in the past they weren't, so keen on EV, right? But things change. Companies start to change direction, and they can see the wind. And maybe 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to have a lot more EV cars on the market, and it's going to be really, really competitive. My personal opinion is that Tesla is still going to be around, but they're going to have a fight. And again, Tesla stock has always been priced for the rosiest scenario, meaning that like they're the only player in town and everyone's going to be buying cars forever. But going into recession, it's just going to be tough. On top of that, there's always new drama. It's always something new. Like, for example, I'm here in Korea, as you guys may or may not know, and this was like on our news, like crazy. It's saying here, you can see here, Korea fines Tesla $2.2 million for alleged false advertising. So it's not really something you want to hear. And the basic gist of it is Tesla cars don't do quite as well in terms of range when it comes winter, and it's now cold here in Korea. And so people are complaining about that. And in fact, not just people are complaining, the government's like, yo, Tesla, you misrepresented your range. And Tesla's been hit by false advertising stuff regarding their FSD. It's their full self-driving in California. I think they're under investigation by the federal government as well. And remember, we looked at articles, I think a month or so ago, and the phrase that they were using was actually criminal activity. But we'll see on that. I'm just telling the phrase, but there's just always drama. Like, here's another drama. I can't make this stuff up. This is just like literally, I just reading this 17 minutes ago. You can read the headline here. Elon Musk subpoenas head of Saudi Arabia wealth fund over Tesla tweet. Billionaire is set to face off investigators in litigation over a funding secured claim in 2018. So now we're fighting over stuff that happened like 5 years ago. I read through it. It was just this argument about whether or not Tesla was going to go private. And then Elon's going to try to claim that the Saudi Arabian wealth fund like pulled out of the deal, stuff like that. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what they said behind closed doors. We're talking about something that happened 5 years ago. But there's just always new drama. That's just the way I look at it. I don't know what's going on with this. I just know that there's always new drama. No more drama. Like another example is Elon Musk always says he's not going to sell stock, and then he ends up selling stock. And someone wrote in the comments recently that's like, even if Elon doesn't sell stock, the banks will sell it for him. Because the basic gist of it is that everyone's worried whether or not Twitter can pay back their debt. And remember, Elon used his Tesla stock as collateral to get a loan to buy Twitter. The whole thing is ridiculous, right? And then on top of that, Elon has been rumored to be stepping down as CEO of Tesla. if I had to bet, and I don't know because I'm not on the inside, but if I had to bet, it might be this guy. So I believe his name is Tom Jew, and he was the former head, or I think he actually still is the head of like Tesla in China. And I remember when they announced that. I want to say 4 or 5 months ago as being the head of China, but they actually brought him to the USA, and now he's in charge of like U.S. sales, I think is what they're calling it. And they're saying like he is, or actually North American sales, I should say. He may or may not be taking over more of a role at Tesla as Elon Musk is taking more on role at Twitter. And one of the questions I have for you guys, actually, I take that back as well, because Elon's been talking about stepping down at Twitter also. So maybe as we talk about this stuff out loud, Elon just needs to step back from both Twitter and Tesla, and I guess let their companies do what they're going to do. But the question I would ask for you guys is, if Elon Musk does step down from both these companies, do you think people are still going to be bullish on the things? Are people investing in these companies because they love Elon or because they love said companies? So that's my thoughts on this stuff. I know there's a lot of frustration out there, and I hope you guys understand sort of my point of view on these things. With all of this stuff, and this is sort of something I want to talk about with you with any of these kind of things, is if someone tells you always the rosiest scenario and never talks about the downside risks, that is a horrible person. Because this is the reality in anything, that there are pros and cons, right? So I'll give you a couple of pros of Tesla, for example. It is a growing industry. That is totally a pro. It is an industry that will probably be around for a long time. I think eventually electric cars and all these kind of things will replace gas. And yes, if they do get involved in alternative energy kind of stuff, sure, that would be a thing. But I think the negatives are like I said, the competition is coming, as well as there's just so much bad milieu and sort of bad sentiment regarding Tesla, this kind of stuff. So if people don't have honest conversations about you with both pros and cons, I would just ignore what they say, because they're only just basically telling you the best situation. And this is sort of why people fail at these kind of things, is because they just close their eyes when they hear news that they don't want to hear. And one of the things that happens often too when I do these kind of videos, people get so mad. They get so mad if I just read the news. And I always find that strange. I think the best way to do well in life is like just accept the truth, right? The truth is that Elon Musk, paid $44 billion for Twitter. I don't think it's a great deal, and you can have an opinion on that, whether I think it's a great deal, but that's the reality. He spent a whole bunch of money on this thing, and that's certainly creating a big drag on Tesla. Just think about this: what if he would have used that $44 billion and would have said, you know what, I'm going to create a whole new solar power business, right? Maybe he would have lost money in that, but at least you're like feel like he's going in the direction that you put your money into, right? People who put their money in Tesla aren't like, oh my God, I really wanted free speech. I don't think anyone was talking about that 4 years ago or whatever. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Tesla. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you next time.